So, I went out and I picked some yellow squash, and this is what I'm going to have for supper tonight. So I just thought I would share what my supper is going to be on Sunday night. All of the ingredients, with the exception of the salt, is right here in front of you. These are pork chops from hogs that I raised last year. This is a yellow squash, the ones I've been showing on all my videos that I've grown this year. And this is just a little store-bought onion, and it is just a tiny yellow onion is all it is. I'm going to cook them in coconut oil, and I'm going to season them with Mrs.Dash garlic powder, onion powder. So that is all of the ingredients that I'm going to use. So let's get to work. We're going to start the meat first. So we're going to put that on the front burner here and turn it on. I'm just cooking for myself, so I use these little pans because there's just really no need in making a whole lot of food for me. So I'm going to get some coconut oil. So while I'm seasoning the pork chop, that's pretty much all I put in there. I put about that, a little bit less than that, in the other one, because that's where we're going to cook our squash. I cook squash a little bit different, I guess, than everybody else. I don't do anything any different, I guess. It just seems like I do. But anyway, pork from last fall. And I'm only going to cook one of these, so that's what I usually do, as I usually just cook one, and then I leave the other one for another time. So, fresh pork chop. I need to get a plate to set that on. And then I just wrap the other one back up. I'll put that in the refrigerator here shortly. Alright, so I would love to tell you how much of everything that I put on here, but I really don't know. This is lemon pepper. I like Mrs.Dash and the Dash products because they do not have salt in them, and when you're cooking meat, you should not add salt to it until after you've cooked it, because it tends to shrink the meat. So if you didn't know that, you do now. I like the Mrs.Dash, and I like it on all kinds of stuff. Garlic powder. I just like garlic. And there you will see that there is no thing on the end of it. It's because I accidentally tossed it. I only put the garlic and the onion powder on one side because I don't want to accidentally dump it in the pan while I'm going to cook it here. So then we take it over to our heat. Okay, it should be warm enough. I've got it on about medium heat usually. So while it is cooking, you're going to add some more season to the other side. This is really personal preference of how much you add. I try not to put a whole lot, but so there is that. The next part is you're going to slice your onion. A lot of times these young onions are not as strong as the big onions, so there's that. Yes, there's a trash can on the other side of my dishwasher here. And you just slice the onion. There's all kinds of little tricks how to slice onions so you don't start crying while you do it, but this is not a real strong onion, so I'm not even worried about that. Alright, the next part is you make sure that you get your little onion pieces broke up because they cook better that way. You can leave them whole, but they don't seem to get done as quickly as if you were to just slice them up. So I've already washed this squash. Coming out of my garden, there was no pesticides. It was just coming right out of the garden, so I just rinsed it off. It really wasn't even dirty, actually. But you cut off each end of it because you have a little, this is the end that was on the plant. This is the end that had the flower. So you just cut off the end. Set that aside. And the thickness is all up to you. I usually like to cut mine about, I don't know, a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, I guess. And I just slice them up. I leave the seeds in them. Some people don't, but this is yellow squash, and it's really hard to de-seed this, so that's why. Some of these might be a little bit thicker, but that's okay. It's still gonna cook. And don't cut your finger. Okay, so that's all there is to that part. You're going to want to turn the burner on and about medium heat or so, and that's going to heat up that coconut oil, and you just want it to melt. And anymore, I pretty much cook everything in coconut oil. See me switch these pans just because I don't like trying to stick my hand over the top of a popping meat. While this is getting melted, you can look at the bottom of the pork chop and see what it looks like. It's real pretty brown. You want to flip that over. And it took about, oh, these are 1/2 inch pork chops. It took about, oh, I don't know, about 6 minutes for that to get brown like that. I do not time any of this stuff, but I will time the squash so everybody knows how long it takes to cook it this way. Okay, so you get your onions, put your onions in. I always put the onions in first because it takes a little bit longer for the onions to cook. Try not to burn yourself when you're doing this. That's why I cook everything on medium heat. And you're going to take your squash and you just kind of stack it like so. It will all fit in here. It will cook down, and it's going to be a little on the mushy side, so if you don't like mushy stuff, you probably will not like this squash. Okay, so to season this, I use Mrs.Dash. And I just lightly season it because I'm going to season it after I take it out. So now for it to cook, I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to hit my stopwatch and see how long it takes. Kind of put your lid on it. It will help to make it cook a little bit faster. And you don't have to put a lid on the meat, but I will tell you that it will help it to cook a little faster as well. Okay, so after about, I don't know, 4.5 minutes on medium heat, you'll want to turn it down, and you'll want to try to turn them. And being as mine's in a little pan, I don't have a whole lot of space, but I'm sure you'll use a bigger pan than I do. But this way the onions don't burn on the bottom. And you don't have to put onions in this. I mean, really. Some people like onions, some people don't. To me, everything needs onions in it. And then you just put your top back on. I've turned it down to low heat. And I have turned the pork chop down to low. So they're just going to simmer for a little bit. So, if anyone needs any squash, just let me know. Okay, so I have just turned off the pork chop. It took approximately 18 minutes to cook to completion. This is not quite done yet. It's been about 10.5 minutes, I guess. Flip it over again. You want to make sure that your onions are translucent, and you want to make sure your squash is a little on the soft side. This is the part where some of it's done and some of it's not. So, and you're really just sauteing this because it's just how it is. It just takes a little while to cook this. And the lid does help. And you can turn the heat up on this, but if you do, you take the chance of burning it. And there's nothing worse than burnt onions and squash. And it's getting softer, it just hasn't quite got there yet. You can feel it when you poke it a little bit. You can see that it comes off the fork, but you can also feel that it's still a little tough. I like putting the squash in soup, and I put it in my chili and all kinds of stuff. So it's been 15 minutes, and you want to turn off your heat. You can let it sit here for a few minutes if you want to, but you don't have to. It's ready to eat. It's just going to be hot. So, there's the squash. So here's the homegrown pork chop. It's been resting, of course. And here is our squash. Doesn't that just look yummy? Thank you for watching, and enjoy your supper.